Listen closely, because what I'm about to share with you will add to everything you know about power, wisdom, and survival. Here's the tension that you're living under right now, whether you know it or not. You've been taught to think that authenticity means showing your full hand, that competence requires display, and that wisdom must announce itself. And because of that teaching, you're losing every single day. The trickster knows better. You're stuck in a world that punishes the honest and rewards the strategic. Now, this is not about deception in the shallow sense. It's about the fundamental structure of transformation itself. Jung identified the trickster as one of the oldest archetypes in the human psyche, older than the hero, older than the sage, older than the mother. The trickster appears in every culture. He's Loki in Norse mythology, Anansi in West African traditions, the coyote in Native American stories, Hermes in the Greek mythology, and soon Wakung in Chinese legend, Nastrogen in Sufi teaching tales. And why? Because the trickster represents the psychological mechanism that allows consciousness to evolve. But here's where it gets interesting, and here's where your daily life intersects with ancient wisdom. The trickster pretends to be the fool. Not sometimes, but always. This is a core mechanism, and understanding why this happens unlocks a power that you've been walking past your entire life. Listen to this. The mask of foolishness. Now, you're in a meeting at work. Someone presents an idea that's fundamentally flawed. You see the problems immediately. You've got the expertise. You've been in the industry for years. What we do? Most people either stay silent, feeling like cowards later, or they demonstrate their knowledge. They say something like, actually, if you look at the data, this approach failed in 2015, and here's why it didn't work. Both responses trap. The first makes you complicit, the second makes you the enemy. The trickster does something different. The trickster asks the naive question. I'm probably missing something obvious here. Could you help me understand how this part would work when we hit the third quarter? I'm confused about the timeline. Watch what happens. The explaining suddenly has to defend the indefensible. They reveal the flaw themselves as they walk through the timeline. You've guided them to discover their own error while appearing helpful, even slightly dim. They like you more afterward. You've gained information about how they think under pressure. You've created an ally rather than an enemy, and you've achieved your objective without paying the social cost. That's the trickster pretending to be the fool. Machiavelli understood this with crystalline clarity. In The Prince, and more subtly in The Discourses, he writes about how appearing simple makes others underestimate you, and that underestimation becomes your advantage. But Machiavelli goes deeper. He notes that the most effective rulers often cultivate a public image that disguises their actual capabilities. They wear the fool's motley clothing while playing grand strategy. He points to Pope Alexander VI, the Borgia Pope, who appeared to contemporaries as pleasure-seeking and simple-minded, his enemies relaxed, his true nature, calculating, ruthless, strategically brilliant, remained hidden until checkmate was already on the board. His son, Caesar Borgia, learned the same technique, appear young and reckless while executing plans 3 moves ahead of everyone watching. Are you beginning to see how this could apply to you, to your job, your relationships, your family dynamics? Right now, at this exact moment, you're trapped by your own competence. Every skill you've openly demonstrated has created expectations that you must now meet forever. Every time you've shown your intelligence, you've narrowed your options. Every accomplishment you've displayed has put you in a box with your name on it. The job won't promote you because you're too valuable where you are. They can't afford to move you because you've made yourself indispensable in your current role. You've demonstrated competence, and it became your prison. The relationship dynamic won't shift because your partner knows exactly what you'll do. You've established patterns. You're the responsible one. You're the capable one, the one who handles things. Try to be spontaneous now. Try to be vulnerable now. It doesn't compete with the competence that you have displayed. And the social group won't see you differently because you've established your role. You're the funny one, the smart one, the reliable one, the successful one. That fixed identity follows you into every interaction. You are imprisoned by your revealed capabilities. The trickster's fool mask is the key that opens the prison. But most people never pick it up because the key feels to them that it's not what it actually is. It's time for us to get some help to guide us. And we have four of history's most brilliant minds. The death of the psychologist Carl Jung. He's the strategic realist, a friend of Niccolo Machiavelli, and the enlightened teacher Buddha, and the resilient Stoics. These are the Fab Four, and today they will not just learn, they will teach. And individually, we will bring them together collectively also. For those of you who stay until the very end, you will be like a fly on the wall of an unprecedented event, a roundtable discussion where these four giants debate, argue, and disagree on the very nature of power and freedom. This is the key to unlocking the parts of you that knows how to break the rules to find your truth. This is the psychology of the trickster, and the profound reason that he so often wears the mask of the fool. Let's start with the architect of the inner world, Carl Jung. Carl Jung discovered that our psyche is not a blank slate. It is preloaded with ancient software, universal patterns that he calls archetypes: the king, the queen, the warrior, and the trickster. The trickster is the ultimate agent of chaos and change. He is the divine clown, the boundary crosser, the shape shifter. His role is to disrupt the status quo, to tear down what is rigid, complacent, and dead. Think of Loki in the Norse myth, whose deceptions often lead to unexpected innovations. Think of the coyote in American native lore, whose greed-driven blunders accidentally carve out canyons and rivers. But here is Jung's crucial and often missed insight. The trickster is the twin brother of the shadow. The shadow is the repository of everything you repress, not just your darkness, but your untamed creativity, your raw power, your forbidden desires. When you lock the trickster in the shadow, you become predictable, respectable, and slowly suffocating person. You become a prisoner of your own persona, the mask you wear for society. But the trickster doesn't stay locked away. He erupts, and when he does, he rarely appears as a confident, smirking rebel. No. His most brilliant strategy is to appear as his opposite, the fool. The fool is laughed at. The fool is dismissed. The fool is not a threat. This is the perfect camouflage. By wearing the mask of the fool, the trickster gains the ultimate advantage: invisibility. He can move through the world unseen because no one is watching the fool. They let their guard down. They reveal their secrets. They show you how the keys fit their kingdom. Can you see the tension building? the gap between the inner power of the archetype and the perceived weakness of the disguise. This is not just a story, it is a psychological survival mechanism, and it's a mechanism that our next master understood on a visceral, practical level. Niccolo Machiavelli was stripped of his power, tortured, and exiled. He didn't write from an ivory tower. He wrote from the mud and blood of political reality. In The Prince, he gave us the cold, hard truth about power, and he gave us the ultimate trickster strategy, the fox. He wrote that a ruler must be a fox to recognize traps. The fox survives not by brute force, but by astucia, cunning and guile. And how does the fox operate? By appearing harmless. Machiavelli advises it is better to be seen as merciful, faithful, and religious, while having a mind ready to break those promises when necessary for survival. Now, the moral part of you must recoil. That's deceptive, but is it? Or is it simply recognizing that you are in a game where others are also playing by hidden rules? The colleague who agrees with everything in a meeting only to undermine you later is using a Machiavellian mask. The system itself is a series of traps. The person who rigidly clings to always being honest without strategy is the lion who falls into the snare. They get passed over, their ideas are stolen, and their energy is drained. The agitation here is real. You felt it. You played the good person and watched others advance through cunning. This is not a call to become evil. It's a call to become awake, to see the game for what it is. The trickster fool, guided by Machiavelli, is not a villain. He is a realist who survives and thrives within a system that is often inherently deceptive. But this is where we face the greatest danger. If we embrace this power for sheer personal gain, do we not become the very wolves we seek to avoid? Do we lose our soul in the process? This is the precise point where we need the transcendent, clarifying wisdom of the Buddha. The Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree and achieved one thing. He saw through the grand illusion. He taught that the world of samsara, with its status, its identities, its problems, is Maya, a magnificent, convincing trick. The ultimate trickster is not a person, but the nature of perceived reality itself. So what does the Buddha contribute to our archetype? He provides the purpose, the motivation. The trickster who acts only for personal Machiavellian power is still trapped. He is trapped in the ego and the cycle of desire and aversion. He is a more effective prisoner within the larger prison. The enlightened trickster uses the mask of the fool for a higher purpose, to pierce through the collective delusion. He is the Zen master who gives a nonsensical koan to shatter your logical mind and open you to direct experience. He is the sage who acts simple to show you that your sophisticated anxieties are built on nothing. He doesn't just break the rules of the game, he points to the fact that the game is not real. Think of the time you were trapped in a story. I must buy that house to be happy. I must have that title to be worthy. These are traps. The Buddhist trickster, wearing the fool's mask, might ask a simple, seemingly stupid question. Why? Or, what if you didn't? In that moment of disruption, the illusion flickers. You see the prison you have built for yourself. The agitation begins to dissolve because the lock was never actually locked. But seeing the lock is one thing. Having the unwavering strength to walk out of the open prison door is another. For that, we need the unshakable resilience of the Stoics. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, their entire philosophy is a manual for maintaining your inner citadel amidst external chaos. And what is more chaotic than the trickster's domain? The Stoic ideal is to be like a rock in a stormy sea. The waves crash, but the rock remains unmoved. Now, imagine that steadfastness in the practice of the trickster fool. This is the fusion that creates an unassailable character. The Stoic trickster is not agitated by the slings and arrows of fortune because he sees them as indifferent. He wears the mask of the fool, not out of fear or a desperate need for approval, but as a deliberate, chosen strategy. He is acting a part in a play, and his inner virtue, his inner peace, remains completely untouched. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who had more power and more traps around him than any of us, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Now, let's make this practical. Let's build a tension ladder with a pain point you know all too well. And that pain point is the soul-crushing job. You're in a meeting. The buzzwords are flying. Synergy, leverage, circle back. It's a ritual of nonsense and everyone is pretending that it's profound. The old you, the good soldier, sits there, nodding, dying a little bit inside, feeling the slow erosion of your spirit, the agitation of a low-grade hum of despair, and you feel powerless. The solution? Activate the Stoic trickster fool, the Stoic shift. Recognize this meeting is an external event. It cannot harm your core self unless you permit it. Your judgment that it is soul-crushing is the source of your pain, not the meeting itself. This is your inner citadel. Now, the trickster fool enters. Instead of nodding along in silent agony, you put on the mask. You play the fool. You wait for a moment, and then you ask with genuine wide-eyed curiosity, "I'm sorry, could you explain what we mean by leveraging your synergistic paradigms? I just want to make sure that I understand in simple terms what we're actually trying to achieve with our customers." Watch what happens. The room will freeze. The person who said it will stumble. You have, with a single, seemingly naive question, exposed the emptiness of the ritual. You haven't been aggressive. You haven't been disrespectful. You've been a diligent fool, seeking clarity. But the effect is a trickster's disruption. You have broken the spell. You might make an enemy of the blowhard, but you will become a hero to the 3 other people in the room who are also dying inside. You have reclaimed your power not through rebellion, but through conscious, strategic, and the peaceful act of questioning the illusion. Now, this is just one example, but let's broaden it. More viewers, more backgrounds. See yourself here. Are you in a toxic family dynamic where you're always cast as the black sheep? The trickster fool stops playing the reactive game. When baited, he doesn't bite. He might agree playfully, "Yep, I'm definitely the difficult one," disarming the attack completely, or he changes the subject to something genuine, disrupting the predictable pattern of drama. Are you a student, drowning in academic pressure and competition? The trickster fool steps away from the relentless grind to play, to explore a subject sideways, through a documentary, a novel, a conversation. This foolish waste of time often leads to a creative breakthrough, the unique insight that sets you apart from the mere grade grabbers. Are you navigating the minefield of modern dating? The trickster fool abandons the curated, perfect Instagram persona. he reveals a quirky, foolish flaw early on. This act of strategic vulnerability, of breaking the rule of presenting perfection, acts as a filter. It repels those attracted only to the mask and magnetizes those who are authentic and worth your time. The pattern is universal. The system, the trap, relies on your predictable compliance. The trickster fool, by introducing an element of the unpredictable, the seemingly naive, or the rule-breaking, shatters the system's control over him. But this power is a double-edged sword, and this is the final tension. Without an ethical foundation, the trickster becomes a narcissist, a sociopath, a con man. This is why we needed all four of our guides. Now, for the culmination. For those who have stayed, we bring them together, not as isolated voices, but in conversation. Imagine the scene. A quiet study, 4 chairs, Jung, Machiavelli, Buddha, and Marcus Aurelius. They take their seats. The dialogue begins. This is the roundtable, a conversation in power, illusion, and virtue. Carl Jung, leaning forward, says this: "Thank you all for being here. We are discussing the trickster, the archetype of disruption. I see it as a vital component of the psyche. When repressed, it creates rigidity and neurosis. When integrated, it brings versatility, vitality, and creativity. But it must be integrated, not acted out blindly. The mask of the fool is a sophisticated psychological tool for navigating a role in a world that demands conformity." Machiavelli, a sharp, pragmatic voice, says, "Sophisticated tool? It is a necessary weapon. You speak of the psyche, Herr Jung, but I speak of the battlefield of the world. A leader, indeed, any person, any who wishes to avoid destruction, must know how to stimulate and simulate and dissimulate. To be seen as a fool is to be underestimated. This is not pathology, it is strategy. My fox uses this disguise to survive the traps set by other foxes and wolves. It is about power and preservation." Now Buddha speaks. Power, preservation. Niccolo, you speak of preserving a self that, upon close examination, cannot be found. The ego you seek to protect is the very source of the trap. The ultimate trickster is the mind itself, which creates the illusion of a separate, enduring self. The true value of wearing the fool's mask is not to preserve the self, but to reveal its illusory nature, to shock others and oneself into awakening, to show that the battle you are fighting is a dream. And the Stoic Marcus Aurelius says, "I see wisdom in both of your points. Niccolo is correct in that the world presents real dangers that require prudence and strategy. Buddha, you are correct in our attachment to external outcomes causes us suffering. But the key is the inner citadel. One can play the fox, one can disrupt illusions, but one must do so from a foundation of virtue. The mask is a tool for acting in the world, but the inner self must be governed by justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom. Otherwise, the trickster becomes a vicious animal, and the fool becomes a true fool." This is your time to like and subscribe. Next, Machiavelli, speaking to Buddha. "You speak of illusion, but while we were in the dream, the pain feels real. The man who does not protect his state, his resources, his influence, will see it taken away from him. He will be crushed by those who do not share your enlightened perspective. My method is the world as it is. not as it might or we might wish it to be. Buddha says to Machiavelli, "The pain feels real because you believe the dream is real. I do not deny the conventional reality of your battles. I do point to the ultimate reality that liberates you from them. A man who knows he is dreaming may still move through the dream, but he is no longer terrified by the dream monsters. He may even play with them. That is the highest form of the trickster. He uses strategy, but without clinging, that leads to suffering." Jung agrees, nodding slowly. This is the integration that I speak of. Machiavelli represents the trickster in the outer world, the persona realm. Buddha represents the trickster in a relation to the self, the transcendent function. But you are both describing the same archetype operating at different levels of consciousness. The danger is in identifying with the archetype. If one becomes only the Machiavellian fox, one is possessed by the shadow and becomes a cynic. If one seeks transcendence, one may neglect the necessary engagements of life. The goal is to hold the tension between the two. And Marcus Aurelius says to Jung, "Precisely. This is where my philosophy provides the anchor. The individual must use these tools while remembering their purpose. The question is, for what end? Is it for self-aggrandizement, or is it for the common welfare? The Stoic trickster uses his cunning not for petty gains, but to perform his duty effectively in a flawed world. He disrupts foolishness not for chaos, but to restore reason." And Machiavelli, in a conceding nod, he says, "I will agree that virtue is a more stable foundation for long-term rule. A prince hated by his people will not long endure. So there is a pragmatic value to justice and temperance, but they must be seen to be practiced. The appearance is often as important as the reality. This is the essence of the mask." And Buddha says silently, "And I will agree with you, Marcus, that right action is essential on the path. And even with you, Niccolo Machiavelli, that skillfulness in means is taught in my techniques. We must use expedient methods to guide beings. We must never forget that the means are provisional. The finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. The fool's mask is not the awakened mind." Jung says, so we find the synthesis. The integrated individual acknowledges that the trickster within. He employs strategic disguise to navigate the external world. He does so without attachment, understanding the illusory nature of the ego and its games. That's Buddha. And he grounds all actions in an unwavering moral character, focused on virtue service. That's Stoicism. This is the full expression of the archetype, not as a demon of chaos, but as a liberated and effective human being. Marcus Aurelius says, "Then our conclusion is this. Let the world think you a fool if it wishes. Wear the mask if it serves a purpose. But within, be the philosopher, be the sage, be the virtuous ruler of your own soul. That is the only kingdom that truly matters." This is the integrated system. This is the path to wielding this profound power without being corrupted by it. You are no longer just a piece on the board. You are a player who understands the game and who can choose to play it with wisdom, skill, and a heart grounded in virtue. The journey begins with a single conscious choice. The next time you feel that tension, that aggravation of being trapped, pause. Ask the trickster's question, guided by the Fab Four. What strategic, illusion-piercing, and virtuous action cannot take from behind the mask of the fool. This is how you reclaim your power. This is how you turn the swamp they led you into your own personal domain of freedom. If this conversation has ignited something in you, if you feel that spark of recognition that says there is another way, then do this for yourself. Like this video. Let it be a signal that you are choosing to become awakened. Subscribe to the channel, because this is the beginning of a much deeper exploration into these ideas. And most importantly, share a comment. Tell me, which of the Fab Four's perspectives resonated most within you? Where do you see the first opportunity to apply this integrated trickster energy in your life? Your part of the story is part of our collective wisdom. Thank you for your time, for your courage, and for journeying to the end. The path to freedom is walked one step at a time, and take that step today. Bye for now. Be blessed.